You're listening to Kowiirplیر, and today's guest is the one and only Armén Ra, queer artist and musician. Welcome to Kowiirplیر, Armén John.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for accepting my invitation. I'm really a huge fan.
Oh, thank you.
After watching When My Sorrow Died, the documentary on your life, I couldn't wait to invite you to my show. So let's start right away because there are so many things that I want to know and we want to hear about you, and I have many questions. Let's start with you telling us who Armén Ra is.
Well, that's a difficult question. Armén Ra is a human being who's had a very interesting life, and I was graced with this instrument that allowed me to express myself musically. I was born in Tehran in a very musical family. And so I was raised with classical music and Armenian music and Persian music and jazz and popular, American music, because during pre-revolutionary Iran, there was an American radio station, which played, the current pop music of the time, which would have been the 70s.
Like when I watch you play on your YouTube channel and in the documentary, you look so calm and stand still, so confident, which is also charismatic, by the way. Like looking at you, I can say that playing theremins needs a lot of focus and practice, and I know from documentary that it was a challenging process for you.
Yeah.
I also suggest to everyone to watch the documentary on your YouTube channel and your website, and it's free after the pandemic. And there is something that I would like to ask. Like, I was wondering what is on your mind when you're playing, when you're that calm.
It really depends on the particular situation. To arrive on stage, dressed and rehearsed and appear calm takes a lot of turmoil, and it's kind of like a war that happens to me before I get on that stage, because it is a very difficult instrument, and regardless of how well practiced I am, and thankfully I've never had any, disastrous performances, but something happens to my nervous system, before the shows. It's an anticipation kind of anxiety that's very, very difficult to deal with. Once I'm on stage, it dissipates because, again, the anxieties from the anticipation, and also, the characteristic of perfectionism that's in this body, which I try and manage, but I've been performing for 20 years. And whenever I did do recitals of classical or Armenian music, this whole phenomenon would happen with the major anxiety. So once I'm on stage, the chemistry kind of changes. one has to be very still and calm when playing this instrument because the notes are millimeters apart, and again, it depends on the atmosphere and the audience. You know, if the audience is very quiet and if the atmosphere lends itself to this kind of performance, then I'm able to lose myself in the music and really be able to kind of channel this divine energy. And then there have been times when the audience has not, you know, been ideal, or the surroundings have been chaotic, or if people are moving around or talking, or if there's distractions, then I'm not really able to lose myself in the music. But because I'm so well practiced and I've done at this point 1,000 shows, that's when like the muscle memory will kick in and I will be able to play the piece very well, but really not be able to access that kind of divine channel because my concentration will be disturbed by distractions. So it kind of depends.
To me when I listen to your musics, and like it sounds like a Milky Way, and when I put the headphone on and listen to it, I feel peaceful, and it's like sound healing to me. And,
thank you.
And
well, yes, that's ultimately, you know, that's all sound and all music has the capability of healing, and because our cells, our bodies all respond to sound. They communicate with waves, you know. There's been a lot of research now that corroborates this kind of information, how sound is very important and has healing capabilities. So you know, all of my recordings, I've recorded in peace at home. So I've been able to really like access that place, you know, like any musician, like it's called like the zone, I suppose. Like when you watch any singer or musician and they're in the zone, there's a difference, you know, as opposed to like having to kind of fight, you know, while you're playing, or play over people, or play with a lot of distractions. And that's just for, you know, this person. I'm sure there's many musicians who can access that kind of zone with distractions. You know, it depends on the person and their nervous system, really. But because of my life and my experiences, you know, my nervous system is somewhat fragile. Having said that, it's also strong in a way, because regardless of the fears and the difficulties I've had in certain performances or leading up to certain performances, I've managed to push through. But it does take a toll, you know.
And I think you're recording a new meditation album.
Yes.
And can you tell us about that, like when we can hear that?
Well, a few, like at the beginning of the year, I started doing live sound meditations with a colleague named Elle Larson, who is a sound healer and plays Tibetan bowls and uses rain sticks and specifically tuned like synthesizers and chimes and all kinds of instruments. So we started doing these live sound healings, and it was a whole different experience for me because first of all, what I was playing was spontaneous and organic, and also the audience was unconscious, because, you know, they would lay down and go into, you know, these states of meditation and be kind of transported into different areas or dimensions. And ironically, I had no anxiety and none of the sensations that would happen before a conventional recital. And also, it was very unusual to be playing for an audience of unconscious people. I found it very amusing because everyone's kind of out, you know. Meanwhile, they are listening, or the vibrations are going through their bodies and healing them and transporting them. So and again, there was always the healing element to even the concerts, because I was playing classical music and the pieces I chose were very emotional or calming, most of them. And so people who were open to this kind of thing would have a healing experience, even with the recitals, because, you know, they would report to me, you know, after, or write to me. And even now, people are always bringing up how healing this music is. And it's really a combination of the theremin itself, because of the purity of the tones, the uniqueness of the sound, how it can kind of at times be very close to a human voice, you know, depending on the register. And then the fact that the theremin has about 8 octaves, you know, I'm able to play tones that are out of the vocal range, let's say, of a human being. And so all of these, because all the chakras have their own musical notes and micro chakras and micro notes and all this, so the theremin's vast and wide reach or octave capabilities really can have a transformative healing effect. And so once I started doing these live meditations, I realized that that is what I really would like to steer the career, you know, or the work rather, into only this kind of healing, more organic application. As much as I enjoy playing the classical works, you know, I've been doing that for 20 years, and it's not as satisfying as actually being able to transport people and heal pains and help people actually heal themselves, you know, by going into these meditative states. So, having said that, that was a very long answer. I also went into this kind of trance, you know, around November, around my birthday, where I just, you know, I had several engagements that I, you know, did, but this kind of transformation started happening to my person, and I just didn't, you know, a lot of my wants and things that I had wanted in life, like, started kind of dropping away. And I was just losing interest in a lot of the things that I was interested in. And so I only wanted to do this kind of meditation work. And my last performance was on New Year's Eve with, I performed with Dita Von Teese, who's a well-known burlesque performer. And I played for one of her performances. And it was a big show, and it was New Year's Eve, and the Orpheum Theater, and sold out, thousands of people. And so for the countdown, we all came on stage to, you know, do the countdown and cheer the audience. And I remember I just raised my glass and the curtain closed, and I heard this kind of inner voice that said, that's it, it's over. And I didn't really, you know what that meant. I took it personally, like, you know, this kind of performance is over for me. And then I did maybe 2 of the live meditations, and then the pandemic happened, and like all of these types of performances came to a halt, you know, all over the world, and then especially here. And still right now, these kinds of performances are not possible, you know, in the United States. And so I believe there was this kind of preparation, like I've been preparing for this to happen subconsciously. And so I still kind of remained in that trance-like state, and a lot of people were doing live broadcasts, and I participated in several kind of group performances on Zoom and this and that. And I still will do that when people ask, and play the classical pieces. But then I received more guidance that I need to, really concentrate on this meditation and healing music to help raise the collective vibration of the planet, because that's what's needed now. And so a lot of the past wars and difficulty started making more sense to me, that I had to go through those experiences to come to a place where I have such control over the instrument and such confidence and union with it that I can just perform organically and spontaneously, which in the past that would have seemed impossible because I'm so practiced, and it was all about these specific pieces and playing them perfectly and so on. So now I'm in the process of recording a 30-minute sacred meditation, utilizing a lot of the divine liturgy of the Armenian sacred pieces of music, and then, going into these variations based on those themes. And we are going to launch a Kickstarter campaign to involve the community and help me finish this piece. And then after that, I will start working on a full album of chakra meditations, going through the 7 chakras.
That seems amazing, and I cannot wait to hear that.
Thank you.
And so related on what you said, what about the drag world? Did you still like I know being a queen and perform on stage was, as you mentioned, a great part of your life, and you're transitioning to another, what should I call it, state, can I say, transition to another state. So will you still doing drag or not?
No, I stopped doing drag a long time ago. My drag experience was much different than what drag is now. I was doing drag in the mid and late 80s in New York. And for me, drag was, first of all, it was very easy because of my physical form. And it was escapism for me because I didn't really want to be Armmen. I wanted to create this drag persona that was very strong and powerful. It was escapism. It was also kind of a psychological and social study, because the world started responding to me in a different way. Because as a feminine male, especially at that time, I didn't have very much power socially. But then just by putting on a wig and heels, really, and portraying this feminine archetype, all of a sudden society was behaving differently towards me. And I had this power that I had never had as a the real Armman, which is androgynous, you know, and ultimately I think, and I've, you know, been told many times that I have a perfect kind of balance of masculine and feminine energy, which I didn't know at that age. You know, I wasn't really aware of it like I am now. But so also drag was socially unacceptable at that time, including in the gay community. So there was gay clubs and then there was drag clubs, you know. The gay clubs were very kind of closed to women and to drag queens and to transsexuals, meaning we were not really welcome or anywhere near celebrated like it is now. It's much more integrated now. And what I liked about the drag clubs at that time was there would be all kinds of people in the drag clubs, gay people, straight people, lesbians, bisexual people. And so it was a much more diverse crowd that would frequent and support the, you know, the drag clubs and the drag community. And there was a, you know, a strong community aspect to the drag world in New York at that time. So I also kind of enjoyed the fact that it was not socially acceptable. I enjoyed confusing and bothering people because I did look so much like a woman. To me, it was like almost a sort of social terrorism. Sorry, that's a hot button word, but I always would tell people I was a man, or I wouldn't, you know, do everything to like quote unquote pass, you know. I liked confusing people, and I liked to torment them with the fact that I was so beautiful, yet I was really a boy. So that was just my personal kind of revenge on the world, and really revenge on men, because the same types of men who would be calling me a fag or whatever, walking down the street like this, would be falling over themselves and, you know, crashing their cars and running after me and giving me everything I wanted, you know. So I had all kinds of benefactors, and all of a sudden, you know, jewels and furs and apartments. And these were all quote unquote straight men, you know. So, and I am and was very dominant kind of personality. So dominating these men was very gratifying to me. Again, it was social terrorism and this kind of revenge for little Armman, innocent Armman, and at the same time escaping from like who I really am, which is a feminine boy. And so I did that, you know. I did drag shows. I modeled a lot in drag. I was in all the big magazines as a model, and not as a queer or drag model. Again, I looked like a woman, so most of it was never really mentioned, and no one would question my gender. Like lots of editorial stuff and advertising work that, you know, several photographers used me for. I was in German Vogue, Italian Vogue, you know, Glamour, this, that, really all of the top fashion magazines. and several books, photography books. So that was satisfying to the ego. And at a certain time, it just kind of ran its course. Like I mentioned in the film, I didn't really want to become a famous drag queen. I also, thought maybe I was a transsexual because I was around a lot of transsexuals who were kind of peer pressuring me, like, you're a woman, just have to get your nose done and shave your Adam's apple and you'll be flawless. And so I went to therapy about that, and the therapist was an idiot because he told me, yes, I was a transsexual, even though I really wasn't and am not, because I never wanted to be a woman. So after, I don't know how many years of doing drag, it kind of lost its appeal. And again, I didn't know what, but I knew there was something else that I would be doing in this life. And not being a transsexual, I felt like I was projecting, like I was being a fake woman. And I didn't want to be that. I didn't want to be a fake anything. And so the novelty of it wore off for me. And then I finally was on the cover of this like drag transgender magazine years ago, like around 2000 or 2001. So like the whole cover was my face, and that seemed to like satisfy the egoic drag fantasy that, oh, I'm on the cover of a magazine now. And pretty much I never did drag again. Having said that, I know never to say never. I might do drag again someday, for a reason, or for art, or if, somebody wants me to do it for like a project or something, because I obviously still can. Thankfully, everything's remained intact, considering my advanced age. But especially now, and no disrespect to anyone, but drag being so mainstream, I just have no interest in anything mainstream, or pop culture in general really never interested me or inspired me artistically. I was always inspired by silent films or classical music, or the great old movie stars, or Maria Callas and this kind of thing. Excuse me. So my inspiration like comes from the past and also comes from the present moment. But it took years, to arrive at a place where I can access the present moment, let alone be inspired by it. So yeah, that was my personal drag experience. Again, it wasn't cool or trendy to do drag, and that was part of what I liked about it. And it was easy. It was, effortless. Really, I just had to throw on a wig and, boob pads. But all of that addition, kind of started just feeling insincere and laborious, So I just stopped it. And then when the theremin came in, because being raised by classical musicians, and my aunt, who is a very well-known opera singer in Iran, at Talar el-Rudaki, where I was going to since the age of 3 and 4, and seeing all these great operas and being involved in the backstage of like the high art of opera. And then, experiencing life and realizing I don't have this kind of voice, and I'm not going to be a great opera singer, and I wasn't very good at the piano or violin, which I did study, but kind of forced into doing that because of my family's background. I never imagined that I would have a career in music. So once the theremin came into my life, and I took to it very quickly, that was such a gift. And that allowed me to access my innocent self, which is, again, Armmen, the innocent Armmen, who is a feminine boy who likes wearing makeup and jewels, That the theremin allowed me to kind of go back to what my innocent self is, which is androgynous. And then also my upbringing of, the classical music world, where one presents themselves very beautifully on stage with, good makeup and perfect hair and, well dressed and all this. I was able to kind of apply what I'd learned with makeup and styling, and a lot of it just came naturally, and the fact that the theremin, while I'm playing it, I'm so still, there's no movement. I thought it was important to present a strong visual image, and that the instrument itself commands a strong visual for the player, even though most theremin players don't do that. But again, this is part of my upbringing, and it's a part of what I wanted to present, because beauty is important to me, and beauty itself also heals and is pleasant and is beautiful, and the world loves beauty. So my long-winded answers.
It's I think the journey that you go through, like knowing yourself and like find out what makes you peaceful, and you reach the innocent Armen, it's needs so much effort and power. Like I really find people that found that inner power to reach their true self. And I have one last but not least question, and you really inspired me and so many people, I think, with the documentary and story of your life. And I was wondering, like, the name of the documentary was When My Sorrow Died, and I was wondering when your sorrow died and what was it, if you're comfortable to talk about it.
Well, there's a few different angles to that title. First of all, it's from Khalil Gibran, who's the great, I believe, Lebanese poet. So I did many works and productions based on his book, The Madman, which was before The Prophet, that is very, very widely known. He had two poems. One is When My Joy Was Born, and I believe another one was When My Sorrow Died. I'm not sure if When My Sorrow Died is the title or it's in one of those particular works, but I always have been so inspired by Khalil Gibran, so I borrowed that from, those are his words. And then the theremin coming into my life and kind of giving me a reason to exist and a vessel to express myself through musically. The metaphor is that the internal war and the suffering of kind of being lost in the world and not knowing why I'm here died when I received the gift of this theremin and was able to express myself musically and alchemize my sadness through this instrument into beauty and healing.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and it was lovely to have you. And I hope one day I get to see you perform live, and
thank you.
Come to one of your, like, I'm not sure what is your plan for the future, like if you're going to have therapy sessions or like live meditation.
Yeah, I have really, I'm not planning anything for the future. Again, this situation has forced me to really be in the present moment. So I'm sure there's lots of possibilities for the future, but they will present themselves spontaneously and I will follow them. But thank you so much for your support, and I do appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and I hope that soon we talk again in Kowiirplیر, and
I'd love to.
Many kisses and love.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Bye.